Evening. I'd like to open up the Select Board meeting for Monday, April 13th. I'm going to open up the executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21. At 5:30, we will be moving into room 303. Our board will discuss the following. Bliss Corner, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation arising out of disposal of solid waste and release site if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. Also, Director of Environmental Affairs contract with Jennifer Miller, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And third, collective bargaining all unions, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of a public body and the chair so declares. At the conclusion of our executive session, we will return to this room, room 304, and we're looking to do that at 6:30 p.m. Motion to go into executive session.
Motion made.
Made by Mr. O'Neill, seconded by?
Second.
Mr. Silver as his first task. All right. We are short Mr. McDonald currently, so we will take a roll call. In favor, Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. Moving into executive session. We're going to bring tonight's meeting of the Select Board to order for Monday, April 13th, 2026. A reminder that this meeting is being taped. It is being shown live tonight as well as rebroadcast at will on our Dartmouth Community Media Station via YouTube. All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and please remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as we remain standing, I'd like to call to your attention to bring your thoughts to our veterans, past, and our service members serving today, both here and abroad. Keep them safe. Thank you. All right. As you may have noticed, we have a new face on the board. I'd like to welcome Nathan Silva to the board. He won the election last week. I'd also like to thank the other three folks that ran that showed great interest in our serving on our board. It's nice to see that we had interest in this position. All other positions did not have, no one ran against the incumbent, and there were lots of seats available on town meeting, and we're still waiting for some of those to be announced. But it's nice to see people wanting to be publicly engaged in this process. So, Nate, thank you for throwing your hat in the ring, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. First order of business tonight is the reorganization of the board.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
make a motion to nominate Chris O'Neill as chairman.
All right. On the floor, we have Chris O'Neill. First, I have to ask Chris O'Neill, are you willing to accept that?
I understand that you'd rather stay on for one more year.
We just need a second motion, second to the motion.
Yeah.
Before asking him if he's willing to accept.
I think so.
Oh, I stand
Corrected.
corrected. Do we have a second?
Second.
Nate's going to second it. Okay. Chris?
I serve at the behest of the chairperson, so I've got enough going on in my life. If you have some things that you'd like to finish, then I would stand down for at least one more year. I've got my term coming up next year. If I decided to go forward, then I would. But I understand you have some things that you'd like to finish.
Thank you. I do. That being said,
think we
for
need
the
to vote.
nomination, we need to
Vote on that.
vote on that. So hearing that it's something that Chris is not currently interested in being the chair, although he has stated that, anyone willing to still cast their vote for him to be the chair?
The call for the vote.
I am calling for the vote. We have on the floor Chris O'Neill as chair of the Select Board.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Those against? Okay, even Chris. So
I'd like to
we
make a
have-
motion.
Okay,
My motion would be in the interest of the continuity of the job you've done and willingness to want to serve. I'd like to nominate Mrs. Brooks as the chair and Mr. O'Neill as the vice chair.
Second.
okay. And that has been seconded. So Chris, I'll go back to you. Is that something you'd be willing to entertain as vice chair?
Yeah, given the amount of time and energy it would take to step in during the term, I think it'd be fine with that. Yeah.
You may want, it probably should be separate.
Separate
Yeah, probably
motions?
separate.
Okay. Cody is recommending that we do a separate motion. So if you'd restate your motion.
I'd like to nominate Mrs. Brooks to be the chair for this term.
Seconded by
Second.
Mr. O'Neill. All in favor of?
On the motion, discussion, please.
Oh, on the moment, sure. Discussion?
Since this board has become 5 members, there's only been 2 times that this board has, as the chairman, served twice in a row. The first time was under Joe Michaud because the board was under a tremendous reorganization of a new police chief, new town administrator, and going through various problems. The second time, to be honest with you, I'm not sure why the chair served 2 years in a row. I think it was just mostly because the gentleman wanted to continue to do his job. The 5 of us are here to do the same job, each job. Everybody does the same thing, whether or not each one has a separate agenda. I don't believe and I don't think it's fair for anyone on this board to serve 2 years in a row. And I just believe that for whatever reason, each one of us is capable of doing the job. And I just don't think that it's fair to the remaining 4 of us, whether or not you made the motion for it or not. I just don't think it's fair. So, in all due respect, I like you, Heidi, but I won't be voting for it.
I understand. All right. All in favor of the motion on the floor, which is to have myself be chair for a second term? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Opposed?
Opposed. Understood. And now a second motion for,
Nominate Mr. O'Neill to serve as the vice chair for this term.
second, Mr. Silva, thank you. Mr. O'Neill, is that something that you,
That'll be fine.
okay.
That'll be fine.
All right. Mr. O'Neill has accepted the nomination. Any discussion needed? All in favor of the position of vice chair for Mr. O'Neill? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much,
You
Chris.
sit here. So you're close to
Okay,
Cody.
so now, this means you and Chris will switch seats.
Got it.
A little dance.
No, actually,
Nope,
I've already, Chris can sit next to
Cody?
Cody.
Okay, so
So-
you're going to switch seats.
Next meeting.
Yeah, we'll
Next
switch.
meeting. All right, stay where you are. All right, very good. All right, we can get into business, and I apologize that we were a little tardy getting in here. Our first order of business, under new business, is constable appointment of Christopher Resendes, and I believe Mr. Resendes is in the audience tonight. Would you come up to the podium and just state your name for us?
Hi, my name is Christopher Resendes.
Okay, thank you. And as I read your application, you have been a constable before?
I have in the past, correct?
Excellent. And you're willing to do it again?
Yes, whatever the town needs, as well as any services needed by any other agencies.
Motion to approve.
Any questions? I don't know what the constable does.
I do.
Okay, we have a question.
No, no,
Oh, you know
I
what he
do know
does?
it, yeah.
Okay, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And so goes our audience. Nope, he's going to stay for a bit. We still have a few people, yes. All right, next item of business. We have an Environmental Affairs Director contract. Jen Miller, and she's not here tonight, but we have read her background and have read the changes to the position from the coordinator position to the director's position. Cody, do you have anything to add, having met with her?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mark, our environmental affairs coordinator, notified us that he would be retiring. And so upon that notification, we posted the job for environmental affairs. Based on market trends and where we would like to see the position go, we did retitle it to environmental affairs director, and we changed some of the job functions, really bigger picture, rather than just focusing on day-to-day, more of the environmental stewardship of the community, focusing on those coastal resiliency and climate grants, so we can not just pull in those additional funds, but also oversee those projects. We had a number of applicants, highly qualified applicants that our team interviewed. I put together a robust interview team that consisted of myself, Gary Carrero, our Director of Budget and Finance, Sue Cunningham, our HR Director, Melanie Perry, our Executive Assistant, Tim Barber, our DPW Director, Christopher Michaud, our Director of Public Health, and the Chair of the Conservation Commission. And based on our conversations, 2 rounds of interviews, Mrs. Miller was our unanimous selection for the position. I think she'll be a phenomenal asset to the community, be a great member of the team, and we're very eager and excited to hopefully get her on board.
Thank you. Having read her resume, some really amazing things that she's been working on, both coasts, working in San Diego for approximately 10 years, and then over in Seekonk, Swansea area, most recently Westboro. A lot of experience with coastal resiliency, as well as land stewardship. Does anyone on the board also have anything to say? Yes, Mr. Tuttle.
I think the qualifications are ideal, and I also think that it's going to become a very visible and meaningful position, especially with the priorities in town regarding water quality, environmental issues, and our communications director, who is doing a fine job to make this even more visible and let people know what we're doing and how we're doing it. It's a great time for us to take on someone with these kind of qualifications. Very exciting. And I commend the team, the extensive work they did to try to find the right candidate. It's great.
And I see that she would be able to join us May 11th, so we look forward to meeting her after she's on board. So I'd like a motion to be made in order to allow Cody to enter into contract negotiations with Jen Miller,
The motion would be to approve the contract.
to approve her contract.
And to approve the contract.
Any other questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good to go. All right, next, we have our select board goals, and we'll find those on pages 32 to 36. And I did speak to Mr. Silver about our select board goals, and tonight I'd like, let me get to them myself. Mr. Haddad, if you would, we'll take them in order, but then I'm thinking that what we might want to do is just, rather than approve them tonight, is sit on them for the,
So the board previously approved them for this year
Right,
already, so we
right.
wouldn't look for you to amend them at this point, because these are the goals that I work off of. And so, just in continuity of operations, our departments work off of these. So the board, when they had approved these, had asked that we review them regularly for progress updates. So with the timing of a new member, we thought it would be timely to go over that progress and also make sure the board is still aligned on these goals. But I mean, the board certainly could amend them. However, you did just approve them a few months ago.
I guess it's really to go on down them and look at the timelines and see
Yeah,
where
and see
we
where
are.
we are, because I think it's, like a lot of our planning documents, it's great to develop them, but it's even more important to review them regularly and see where we are. And so I think tonight would be a great opportunity for us to do that.
Excellent. So here we are, we're looking on page 32 at financial health.
Yes, so you'll recall the select board goals are broken up into 5 main categories, which are financial health, long-range planning, economic development, internal operations, communication, and transparency. And then under each one of those main points, there are several kind of sub-goals with established timelines. And so sub-goal 1 is to review all operations to ensure efficiency is maximized, expenses are limited to necessary functions of governmental operations, revenues are consistent with best practices within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So that really is an ongoing annual review item. Gary and I are consistently undertaking this. We have particularly been looking at this as part of the fiscal 27 budget process. I think when we look at operations as a whole, many of the items that you see, I think we've actually made some great strides with. I'm going to use legal as one example. This year, I was looking at our legal budget earlier today. We are spending about $22,000 a month in legal this year. The last 2 years, we were spending about $36,000 to $38,000 a month. So, I think our team's done a really good job of getting that under control. If the trend continues, we will spend over $100,000 less this year, around $150,000 less this year than we did the past few years on legal. So one of the examples of kind of our team reviewing and making sure we're being efficient, requests for counsel are only, going through their proper channels and so on and so forth. So, but that'll certainly continue.
How does a special counsel work? Are we paying that bill, or is the 40B applicant pay the?
Pay that bill.
We're paying that
We
bill,
do,
right?
yep.
Okay, there's no reimbursement on it.
There was not.
So that includes, the $100,000 backward includes the cost of,
Yes, we are, with all of our legal taken into account, as long as the trend continues throughout the remainder of the fiscal year, we should end that account with at least $100,000 surplus. Can't guarantee it, because, litigation can sometimes come up. But, yeah, we even with, we've spent over $30,000 on special counsel this year. That's primarily made up, that's not just 40B, that's also Bliss Corner. We have Bliss Corner counsel. But between those two, yep, the PFAS. So that's broken. We have labor counsel, and then we have general counsel. The biggest kind of trend we've seen down is in general counsel. And it's a number of factors. It's not just litigation.
land use. a lot
Yep,
of land use.
it's, yeah,
General counsel, anytime general counsel goes down, that's good.
it is. Yes, it's very good. So, under 1.2, implement the compensation and classification study and negotiate employee contracts that balance competitive compensation within fiscal constraints, including phase benefit enhancements. Well, I think we've made, I think we're ahead of schedule on that one. We're at June 2026 for that. We have finished the compensation and classification study. You recall the board adopted that at one of their last meetings. We also have greatly, at least in my opinion, improved our benefits package with the health insurance changes that the board previously approved. And so we are looking to negotiate that with our collective bargaining groups, but we're certainly on track for that, pending successful negotiations. But we're certainly doing very well. The health insurance itself was a goal that the board, I think, has had for a number of years.
Yes.
And for us to have accomplished that is great.
Thank you.
1.3 is establish the Budget Advisory Group to work collaboratively with the Select Board, Finance Committee, School Committee, and the town's leadership. That was in goal of December 2026. We were right on track with that, as I believe we held our first Budget Advisory Group meeting in December of actually 2025. And so, I think over this year, we'll certainly work with that group to develop more comprehensive recommendations and results. But we've already seen some of that collaboration begin to work. You recall one of our recent meetings where the select board attended a meeting at the school committee. While that wasn't a direct connection to the budget advisory group, I certainly think that group helped to kind of facilitate those successful.
I think so, too. Yes, Dave?
With the ongoing work of the Budget Advisory Group and long-range planning, and, we're coming to a precipice where we're going to be hitting these issues hard. Maybe something we could consider for the fall, where we could either have a joint meeting or an updates on what these groups have found and where we're going, because I think that within a year, we're going to have to make some pretty major decisions, but all this work that's being done and teamwork we have, I think it'd be a good time to start getting this out in front and talking about it. And it would be a proper time to do it, maybe in the fall after summer. That's a question.
Budget Advisory Group is working on an update actually now. We postponed our meeting that was initially scheduled for tomorrow to the latter part of the month. And Mr. O'Neill and Mrs. Silver Brooks can certainly opine, but I think we'll probably have an update for the board early summer, early June probably.
Okay. And maybe we can then make some more specific plans in the fall once we get this stuff all together and assimilated.
Yeah, and they dovetail, Dave, with the long-term planning also, so it'll,
Thank you.
it seems like it's all coming together at the
Yep.
same time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, 1.4.
1.4 is to work through the fiscal 27 budget process to identify operational areas where greater financial investment may be necessary that allows Dartmouth to excel in service delivery and develop a plan to address the identified needs. This has primarily throughout this process been the school department budget. We went into the budget as an administration making sure that our team was aware that It was a goal overarching of the board and the town to address school and educational costs within the town of Dartmouth. And so Gary and I have done, I think, an excellent job of getting that message across to the team. And what you see in the budget this year truly, I think, will reflect that, in that there is no real increases in the general government side, other than and we're looking to add a DPW business manager. That's only 1/4 funded by the general fund. And it's really just contractual increases. Any additional new revenue that we had, we are recommending be allocated to the school department budget this year, hence why we are able to offer a 4.5% increase from our revenue. And so while we recognize the challenges and that it wasn't exactly what the school department was hoping for or need, it truly, offering 4.5% in the current economic climate with our limited revenue growth shows, I think, the commitment of the board to try to address the funding over within the schools. So we'll certainly continue to work through that. There is still the school department did meet and brought their request down to 5% based on our joint meeting. Gary and I have met and discussed. That 4.5% is the number. There is no additional revenue. I had discussed before. We are losing a level of conservativeness with the 4.5% that we've typically had with our budget in the past, and so we will certainly have a more challenging year next year. What we have offered to the school department is essentially there's a gap of about $278,000 remaining. We do have a collective bargaining stabilization fund, which is money that we put aside for collective bargaining purposes. There's no reason why that cannot also be utilized for collective bargaining on the school department side. It historically has not been done, but there's no reason why it can't be done. And so we feel comfortable allocating $100,000 to the school department budget from that account. And so essentially that leaves kind of the gap of about $178,000. So the administration was planning to meet with the school committee, and we hope to come up with a consensus budget. But we're really doing everything that we can to support our not just the school department. We're supporting all of our departments, but this year in particular to allocate as many resources as possible to them.
Thank you. Next, we're going to look at our long-range planning, which is page 33 in your document.
So long-range planning is broken up into 3 sub-goals. Goal number 1 is to support the Long-Range Capital Planning Committee in identifying projects like construction of schools, water and sewer infrastructure, and recreational facilities. Prepare a plan for review and endorsement by the Select Board that includes comprehensive funding opportunities. We had this as a December of 2026 item. I think we're actually ahead of schedule on that as we presented the long-range capital analysis to the board at a previous meeting. We've also presented that to the Finance Committee. We're certainly going to look to refine the data. There was some requests from the board of some additional data, but you certainly have an idea of those things that we're looking at. We are going to be seeking authorization to borrow for 2 DPW projects at the upcoming town meeting. The board recently approved the statement of interest for a new middle school or potentially a high school, a building to replace our middle school. And so long-range planning is it's ongoing, and we're certainly, I think, making good strides with that. So that's a goal that we're right on track with.
Excellent. Number 2.2.
Yeah, so 2.2 is to work with local and state agencies such as DEP and the EPA on environmental priorities, particularly water quality and coastal resiliency. Support the Water Quality Advisory Committee to identify and accomplish improved water quality throughout all of Dartmouth. So the board at your last meeting appointed 16 members to the Water Quality Advisory Committee. We're looking to get a meeting scheduled. We're also have some, we're working with some professionals in the field to get a public kind of workshop for the first week of May. There's some more information that'll be coming on that. So this is in the earlier stages, but we're certainly progressing, which is, I think, what you want to see with these things. And as far as coastal resiliency and other environmental priorities, we're excited to get our new environmental affairs director on board, because I think Jennifer,
Perfect timing.
Yes, it is. So she'll play a big role in that.
2.3. Oh, Nate, sorry. Go ahead,
I'm
Nate.
just jumping back to 2.1.
Okay.
In the,
We can.
when I was on the finance committee, I had requested if we could show that same analysis of, the increased cost per ratepayer or whatever, but if we shifted the timeline, further down the road, we can still, that request is still open. No rush on it, but I would just like to see that.
For the long-term projects?
Yeah, for long-term projects.
We had a number of valuable items of feedback that the board had shared based on the finance committee and the select board, and so we're working to update that presentation, and we will be making that within the next meeting or two to the select board.
Nate, you're saying, for instance, what will my water bill be if we do XY project?
Yeah, so the chart in the presentation showed, like, at peak, when all the projects were going, I think it
It'd be
was
like
like
this,
1,400
2 schools,
a year or something.
Okay.
But what I want to demonstrate
treatment.
is, if we don't do that within that timeline and we shift it further to the right, we kick the can, so to speak, what will that $1,400 a year number grow to when you put,
Being addressing the
escalation costs on top?
inflationary
Exactly.
estimate, okay.
I think it'll show a much larger number, depending on how far
So you're
you
looking
kick
at
it.
that to be we better get moving and get them done because it's going to cost so much more if we don't.
Exactly.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. 2.3.
Yes, 2.3, review and identify specific projects within the master plan and open space and recreation plan that the town should pursue. Ensure that development and projects moving forward are consistent with these strategic plans for the town. So we have been caught up, I will say, in a lot of the day-to-day and some of these other projects. So this is one that hopefully once we get a new assistant town administrator on board, this is one of their priorities that we will look to assign and make sure that they're working with the staff to oversee. So there's certainly projects going on that are within our master plan, open space and recreation plan, but we want to make sure that we're particularly pulling them out of those plans and have a plan to address each of one of those projects. That's not something we've started yet.
No, we've got a timeline.
We do.
December 26th, so we're still okay.
Yeah, we just approved these goals.
Mr.
so.
Tattelbaum?
But I also think that that's one of the tragedies of a master plan. It's so giant and so inclusive that maybe the first thing we should do is just handpick a handful of the really important things and be done with the rest of it so we can say we've addressed the most important parts. Because I've always felt that way about a master plan. It's just too big and it's unachievable, and you feel badly because you're not addressing it. But it's not achievable, so that would be a good thing we can whittle it down.
All right, next we have on your page 34, item number 3, economic development.
Yes. Goal number 1 is to develop an economic development committee / task force to be charged with identifying economic development strategies for the town. So the board did approve this charge in February. We had a number of other boards and committees that the board had recently approved, and so we wanted to not necessarily spam everyone at once. We want interest, so this will actually get advertised sometime later this month, and we'll look to have the first meeting sometime early summers. But the group has been created. The board did approve the charge.
Excellent. And so that's not bad. So the February 2026 timeline is now in April, which is fine.
Yeah, what you see when we develop these is the timeline's never going to be perfect. But there are some things where, we're accomplishing earlier than we had anticipated. Some are pushed back, but hopefully what the board sees and what the community sees is we're making a lot of progress on most of these goals.
And as I recall, this was something that initially had been under the assistant town administrator.
It is,
We're
yeah.
still without that position.
That's
So
correct.
hopefully, we'll have someone by the time this is up and running as well.
But it is important to update this so that it doesn't appear like we're not paying attention. We can change those dates, but and stick to them as opposed to leaving these dates there and looking like we're not paying attention.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The goal number 2 is to review the permitting processes and supporting infrastructure that will lead to greater support of new development. This is something that the Economic Development Committee, will be tasked with. It's particularly in their charge. As far as the infrastructure side, we're already looking at that. We're doing that with DPW, and the infrastructure is really wide-ranging, right? So we talk about water and sewer infrastructure. In order to have vast economic development, you need to provide those public utilities. And so when we talk about keeping up with our water mains, when we talk about wastewater treatment plant, those, believe it or not, are key factors in economic development. So more work for the Economic Development Committee to really take the charge on, but there is also some work going on in the background, internally at least, toward that
I think it
goal.
would be nice to have, and we have talked about it a little bit before, some of the department heads be able to make recommendations about current process and procedure to try and make the new development, don't give it away, but make it a little bit easier with the more obvious things that can take some of the pressure off some of these projects, and not give anything back as far as water quality or, sacrifice anything from the town side. But I think there are some things in there that we might be able to change.
At your next meeting, our planning director, Dan Giosa, will be in to present to you the zoning change that's being proposed by the planning board. It's for a change in the site plan review process, and I think it kind of does exactly that. Try to streamline it, doesn't take away any of the town's kind of regulatory authority, rather hopefully makes it easier for applicants to understand, puts more into regulations, and allows us the planning board to grant waivers, so on and so forth. So Dan will give you more of an overview of that, but really coincides with that in this goal.
Excellent. And marketing strategy.
Yes, so Jess, our communications manager, will be working on this over the summer. We really want to look to highlight and market Dartmouth and everything that we have to offer in economic development, but also as a great place to live, to work, to have a business. So we'll be undertaking that.
And it's nice to have a communications person that has experiences in the area of marketing.
Yes, we're very fortunate.
And internal operations.
Internal operations, goal number 1 is to conduct operational studies for key departments. For example, Public Works. We did approve the funding for this. I've been in contact with Tim Barber, particularly for Public Works. We are looking to hopefully undertake this at the beginning of the fiscal year. As we looked at some of the key positions that we needed to get filled over there, that was one factor in an early fiscal 27 start to this. We also look at the business manager, which really will oversee the financial side, and we think that's probably a key player to have involved in this study. So I think we're still right on track. We had a December 2026 timeline for the completion of that, and I think we're still doing pretty good with that timeline. Develop a staffing plan, including recruitment for diverse talent and professional development programs. We are making great progress with this. Our HR team is working to formalize our staffing plan, although hopefully what you see is we've made great strides in our recruitment efforts. DPW in particular, if you go back a year ago, you had probably close to 20 positions vacant. I met with our HR director last week, and we have 2 or 3 vacancies down at DPW right now. So it just a total turnaround. And you see that across town. There's certainly some key positions where we've had challenges filling. That's not unique to Dartmouth. That's really the market.
I think I had mentioned that from the DPW meeting, the work being done and the collaboration between the administration, HR, and the department heads is really starting to gel. So it goes a long way in making sure that we're as competitive as we can be for some of these positions.
We've also, offered several different trainings for our team over the past several months. We have 4 key department heads that are involved in leadership training right now that the Mass Municipal Association is offering. We're actually hosting it right here in Dartmouth at our North Branch Library. So we have several municipal professionals from around the state that are attending this it's either 3 or 4 sessions. And so 4 of our members are there. We also have brought in the state operational services division to provide procurement training. We've provided CPR and first aid training to all of our department heads. So, and we'll certainly, that doesn't stop. We'll certainly look to expand that. But
It's helpful when they go to move up.
Yep.
If
Build their toolkit.
yeah, we have to add the training pieces to it. Voluntary basis, or are there recommendations to those individuals?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. So there's some where there's recommendations made that I've made recommendations
Good.
to the department head. And I also mention it in department head meetings if there's particular trainings the staff want to see, I want to know about it. But additionally, like the leadership training I mentioned, if anyone's in particular is interested, so it's a combination of both targeted and then there's some where I'll bring them into department meetings, and so the staff don't necessarily have as much of a choice, but it's still, like the CPR and first aid training, I think that's a good life skill that everyone can have. So we did that during a department meeting. 4.3 is integrate modern technology such as AI tools for data analysis, procurement, and meeting minutes. Our systems analyst has met with several vendors to look at procurement in particular. If you noticed in the compensation and classification study, that was one area that they highlighted that they felt we were really deficient is procurement. Most municipalities of our size have a procurement department, actually. We do not.
No.
We have one procurement aide who services the DPW, and then all of the procurement through the town goes through my office, through myself and the assistant town administrator and the executive assistant. So tools like this are certainly crucial. So we're just in the kind of review and investigative stage, but you notice that's not until September 2026 fall.
So is the business manager position that you were talking about, would they take on some of the procurement down at that department?
They would oversee it, but we do already have a procurement specialist down there.
Okay.
The business manager, which we have posted for, just with the timeline of expected kind of filling the position. The position is posted, and what it consists of is primary budget responsibility for all the DPW operations enterprise funds. As we look at setting rates, that's a key piece of this position. Overseeing all of the billing of all of the DPW enterprise funds.
Is there an opportunity to get rid of any of the consultants that we've relied on in the past with this position?
I certainly view things like rate studies. I'm not sure we'll take on in the future. Yeah.
Through contract, you mean?
Yeah,
Through-
right.
through-
So
yeah, okay.
we've paid consultants to conduct rate studies.
Are you saying a position might be able to pay for itself?
Oh, I definitely think it will. Yeah, I mean, the savings that.
Unheard of.
Unheard of.
I will say that I know that Chad attended our, the MMA conference and focused primarily through the vendor fair, looking at these AI tools. And although I attended the same vendor fair, did not have that specific focus, and it was amazing in conversation with him, all the information he was able to pick up, and he's very discerning as far as, you don't want something that's doing everything. You want to be very specific, and right now, while AI is still being ironed out, it's wise to be cautious.
Absolutely.
In, junk out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right, 4.4. That was the training,
Yep.
sorry.
So the training is ongoing. Obviously, we're looking at various areas to bring in additional training opportunities particularly for our boards and committees. I think we've done a nice job providing some training for staff. We're going to continue to expand and offer those. But I think over the next several months, we really want to focus on what can we offer for our boards and committees. And so that's something we'll be reviewing.
And then explored shared services.
Yeah,
with the
we've
school
had several
department.
conversations as an administration with the school administration team. We have thrown out this topic of exploring shared services between the town and the school. There's different approaches that we can take, and so we really have thrown out several different ideas to the school department to try to figure out what may work, what may not. HR is listed here in particular, and we are investigating that. Our superintendent of schools as well as our HR director are meeting and discussing with towns that have a shared services of HR to see what could that model look like, what's worked well in other communities, and how can we potentially do that here. Our initial thought was the school department, as part of their overall request, was looking for an HR director. We have an HR director who is great. Our HR, Sue Cunningham, does an amazing job. We're uniquely positioned as well, where Sue in particular comes from a school district, and so she has that knowledge of a school department. And so rather than potentially adding $120,000 or $130,000 HR director, I think we could probably get the same level of service by bringing on an assistant HR director in town at a much lower cost and still provide those services to the school department that they're looking for. And so that's one area we're investigating. Most recently, we've had discussions on communications. Jess, our communications manager, has had some great collaboration with the school department. We've actually offered for Jess to serve as their public information officer. That way there is a centralized approach. The school administration is taking that under advisement to see if it's something that they think may or may not work over there. And so those are two, I think, of the areas that we can see the most success potentially. You know, we've had discussions on several different areas. You know, facilities has been a topic that's come up. That's a little bit of a more challenging, long-term potential solution. But it's certainly one of those things we're looking at.
It's one of the discussions also with the Budget Advisory Group where, you know, it's not just the town departments that we're looking to shared services for, but the conversations will be had about regionalization and trying to take advantage of some of the municipalities that are having the exact same problems that we are. And it behooves us to have those conversations with those organizations, even if it's very informal, to try and figure out if we have shared interest and have the ability to shave some money. So we'll see.
All right, number 5, communication and transparency.
Yeah, I think, and I'm probably a little bit biased, but I think this is one of the areas where we've made, we've made a lot of progress, don't get me wrong, but this is an area where I think we've made a lot of tangible progress. And so, 5.1 is to host the Citizens Academy to better inform our residents of the operations of the town and engage our youth earlier on. So we've started the Citizens Academy. We've had 2 sessions at this point, and they have been really, really well received. So we did intro session, which was general government, and then the second session, which was last Wednesday, was for public safety.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten some really good feedback already from the group. We had an overwhelming number of individuals sign up where we actually could not accept everybody. We accepted about 25 people. It was a kind of first come, first served basis. We were, at least personally, I was a little bit concerned on, what type of group were we going to get? Were we going to get the same players of people that were involved, which is good, but we really want to expand. And so to my delight, our first meeting, I only recognized 2 people, which is pretty good. It was a group of people who otherwise aren't really engaged with the town, and really didn't know much about the town or the operations going on. And so it's great.
Well, I've heard good things. A member that's a part of this first wave of Citizens Academy had the same thing, recognized only one other person in the group, and then during some kind of breakout sessions or opportunities to speak, just found that there were a number of folks who were brand new to town and thought this was a great way to learn about Dartmouth. So I'm thrilled that we are doing it, and thrilled that we had a wait list. And to this first class, apologies in advance that the next Citizens Academy will be better.
Yes.
Because it's always trial and error as we go through. But I'm hearing very good things, and they're very excited that the meetings are being taken on the road. They're not only in one spot, but this most recent one, they were at the police department in a room that no one gets to see.
Yeah, our officers use it for their training. It was conducted in our training room. I think I was maybe a little bit too ambitious with trying to fit in a lot of information in an hour and a half. So this last session actually went an hour late. But it was great. But
no one walked out.
No. We had police. We had all 3 fire districts actually presented as one presentation. We had stat ambulance in to present on EMS. We had our deputy harbor master was in to give a presentation on what the office does, as well as emergency management. So really robust. Like you said, Heidi, I think one of the adjustments that I personally need to make is when I developed this, kind of thought there was a baseline of some of the knowledge, and which is good that there isn't. But we had some members at the first meeting didn't know what the select board was. And so I went in kind of with a basic understanding of, okay, well, everyone will have this baseline, and so those are the things we'll need to work through, and I think the next session will be even better. But department heads are doing a great job, and we meet again Wednesday night at the COA. Yeah, so that's great progress there. So
And
right,
I know
right on
that,
track.
I know that here we also have engaging our youth earlier. At our last select board meeting, we had a group from a civics class at Dartmouth High School sit in, which was great. But it would be wonderful to see how in the future we can offer the Citizens Academy to high school students directly, which would be
That's a great
exciting.
point. We, in the Citizens Academy, I'll say it's a wide range of ages. We probably have ages ranging from mid-20s to late 70s, early 80s. So it's, it really is a cross-section. We did an introduction on night one, and you have people, a lot of new residents to town, a lot of people with, school-age children, people with no school-age children, retired individuals, working individuals. So when I say really diverse group, it really is, which is excellent. We couldn't have asked for a better group. So good progress there. We're still working to streamline our protocols for public records requests. That's, we have that down as December 2026, so we certainly have some time there. Publish an online budget portal with real-time budget information available at all times. We're ahead of schedule with that. We have that as December 2026. Gary Carrera, our Director of Budget and Finance, has been working with Chad Deschamps, our Systems Analyst, to get this implemented, and we anticipate going live with this prior to town meeting this year. So, yeah.
That's soon.
It is, yep. We've demoed, they have all of our data uploaded, and now Gary and Chad are refining that information, so that should be going live very soon. Let's see, host annual community forums and visioning sessions for input on priorities. That's an ongoing topic. I will say one of the things that we're doing that aligns with this goal is a pre-town meeting. Hasn't been done here, and so we're going to do that on May 27th. That'll go out with everyone's town meeting packet. We'll be posting that information. And so essentially a session for everyone to come, ask their questions, and hopefully learn a little bit more about town meeting prior to town meeting. And so that's one example of those sessions and community forums that we're going to be hosting.
But I also say, we had community forums, especially when we're looking at getting input through the long-term planning. We hadn't done that in a while. So I think having this pre-town meeting opportunity is also great for people to get their questions out. And also for us on this side who are presenting the warrant to see where perhaps we're not so clear in the information we're providing. So I think it's a great opportunity.
And then we have our last sub-goal, which is to work with UMass Dartmouth leadership to reaffirm the town's commitment to the town gown and coordinate a series of collaborative activities and events. This is an ongoing topic. Our administration meets with the UMass administration on a regular basis. We have a few things that we've discussed and in the pipeline. Most notably is on the first Saturday in June, we will be hosting a mental health awareness event on the campus of UMass Dartmouth. So it's a Town of Dartmouth event. It looks like we're going to try to partner with the Town of Westport, and we're going to host an event for our community, but host it on the campus. I think UMass has been very accommodating. We're excited to do that, and they're going to also take part to an extent with that. So we're
Great.
looking forward to
Great
other future
facility.
events with them.
Great.
That is the last of the select
And
board
also,
goals.
they did host our precinct 3 on the
Yes, they did.
latest
That's a good point.
election. And I do know that, the school department has been using some of their common facilities to host some of the professional development activities that they've done. So it's great to have a partner.
I tell you, the
UMass Dartmouth.
feedback from Precinct 3 wasn't good this year. I understand.
Was it the location?
I understand the reasoning behind it, but really, they only need Precinct 3 in the years that there's a presidential election and state elections. Town elections, it just doesn't work at UMass Dartmouth at all. Especially now since they moved it out of the building into a trailer. It just doesn't work. And we need to seriously rethink that. And I understand we're under the constraints because state law requires us to count, the student
students.
population. But I can guarantee you half that student population are registered to vote in their hometowns or their home state, and not in Dartmouth. So, we need to seriously rethink the location.
Yeah, and I know we really pushed the effort when UMass Dartmouth said we can't host it. We really pushed them to find a spot for us.
Yeah, but it's
So maybe
really not a
this-
good spot.
Not a good spot.
No. I mean,
We should
I
probably,
think there was like only 37 people that voted in the election.
Yeah.
Town, I mean,
Yeah.
albeit, you know, town
It was
elections.
a low, yeah,
Yeah, but still, 37,
right.
you know.
we should probably have Sarah take a look at that
Yeah.
with the administration and try
I
and figure
think
out.
what she's filed, if I'm remember correctly, had to be filed for this year,
That's, I mean.
which will be fine, I guess, when
There's
we
a
get
state,
to
right, there's
the
a state
September and
primary and there's
November.
a, you know.
Will
and-
work out
right.
better.
And I mean, the one thing I don't want to see is that, you know, the year that there's only a town election, that it goes somewhere and then it's back to UMass and it's back to the town, you know, then
have
it
it run.
flip-flopping every year.
Right.
You know, the location used to be, you know, the Bible Church on Morton Avenue.
Yeah.
You know, that's 300 yards from the school.
We were hoping to get more students involved, which is why we moved on campus.
Right, but more students get involved only
The
in
presidential.
presidential elections. Even in the state, they don't get that involved. The numbers creep up a little bit, but not like a presidential election.
It will be something we'll be asking Sarah as she reports out on the overall.
Yeah, we
Election
did,
results
we were
and-
made aware of concerns on Election Day regarding the precinct and identifying the location. I immediately had a conversation with our town clerk, and she showed me the signage. She actually went out to the location. So you know, it certainly may not be a great location, but I can definitely assure the board that Sarah was on it, and the signage was quite well. And so you know, if it's something that the board thinks should be moved back to the Bible Church, we can certainly, you know, ask Sarah to look into that for the next election year. But we definitely did the best with the location. As you mentioned, there was some concerns with the location at UMass, and so Sarah was before you guys in December, I believe it was, to actually move the location back to the Bible Church, and the board had shared concerns that they really would
didn't
like
want
to keep
that.
it at UMass, and so we worked with the chancellor's team to find that location. They showed her the location ahead of time, and she, you know, as the election officer, signed off and thought it was a good location. But we certainly can learn from this and share any feedback that we have with the town clerk.
I mean, the concerns really aren't ours or Sarah's, it's the people who actually go out and vote. They're the ones that we have to be, you know, cognizant of in their comments. So, if they don't like it,
All right. All right, thank you. I think our goals are still standing the test of time. It's not like we're sitting here saying, achieved, achieved, achieved. So we're still working on them, so that's great. All right, next we have our Select Board Code of Conduct. It is something that we have signed off on every year after election. I wanted to make sure, although we have read it in the past, that it was something that Nate could digest, and I didn't want him to be forced into digesting it if he hasn't had a chance to review it.
Read it.
You read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take no exceptions.
All right. This is our code of conduct, is something that not only does this board review and sign off on, but it's something that is shared with every board in town, and ask that each of the boards review it and also sign off on it, and hold each other accountable to the code of conduct as well. So I think that this was something that we did several years ago, and I think it,
2021.
July of 2021, and I think it still works. So if we are, I will defer to Nathan. If you are prepared to sign off on it tonight, then we will.
I am.
He is. Do we have to vote or just sign off? Vote. So,
To adopt the code of conduct for the 2026
Motion made by Mr. McDonald,
Second.
seconded by Mr. O'Neill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. So we're going to pass that around, and once you sign it, although not signed in blood, it is how we will operate. Next, our town administrator's update. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. A few very positive things to share. First is our Youth Commission has approved 10 to 12 grants to pay for Parks and Recreation Camp for town residents this summer. This is something the Youth Commission has historically done. However, this is the first time where we're actually going to pay for students to attend Town of Dartmouth camps. Typically, it's been to YMCA camps, and so Dolores Joseph, our youth advocate, has worked very collaboratively with Becky Amaral, our Parks and Recreation Director, to come up with this new program. So we're very excited to offer it, keep it in-house, and pay for these students to attend our own programming. On the same kind of note, I want to shout out Dolores Joseph, our youth advocate, and Rachel DeZilo, our substance use coordinator. They partnered with the United Way and Hungry Heroes and got 150 bags here, what you see, a little, right? And so in this, there's 150 of these. We have offered them up to all the Dartmouth public schools, and they're also going to be handed out at both libraries during school vacation week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, from 12 to 1:30. And inside of it is a little activity for kids, planting, and then a whole number of non-perishable foods. So there's cereal in here, there's granola bars, there's a whole,
Pass that down.
yeah,
I haven't
whole,
had dinner
whole,
yet.
whole jar of jelly.
That's
Yeah.
a big job.
Yep, a whole jar of peanut butter, and so a lot of
And
different
actually in a
things.
great sling
Yeah,
bag.
and in
for
a
them.
nice bag, easy to
Yeah.
transport. So kudos to them. This is really great. Not only offer it to the schools directly, but also going to hand it out at the library. If the weather is nice, you'll be able to catch them at the community park over by Southworth. And if not, they'll be inside the libraries handing those out. Like I said, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, both of the libraries, first come, first serve. We also are pleased to share we got a $135,000 GAP grant from Massachusetts DEP. This is going to fund heat pumps at our DPW administration building, more energy efficient transformers at our wastewater treatment plant, and LED lighting across LED lighting upgrades at DPW facilities across the network. So all things that likely would have been needed, we're able to get funded through a grant. Our energy manager, Kathy Stanley, has overseen that process. As Ms. Silva,
There goes the jelly.
There was the jelly.
as Madam Chair had mentioned, we had the local election last week. Turnout wasn't quite as high as we had anticipated, but we still had a decent turnout. All of the results are official now and have actually been posted.
Oh,
So
excellent.
anyone elected to town meeting can go on our website. That's all there. We did have a write-in candidate for assessors, did get elected. And so if anyone has any questions, you can certainly contact our town clerk. Kudos to Sarah, our town clerk, our assistant town clerk, Kelly Thompson, and all of the poll workers for that's a long day, and their dedicated staff. There's a number of them, and I mean the election was resulted. The results were in and wrapped up before 9 o'clock. So that's kudos to the team. You don't really see that in most places. So they know what they're doing. They have it down. So nice job to them. And I already mentioned the Citizens Academy. We'll have our third session tomorrow night at the COA.
And thanks to Mike and Paul for doing the DCTV show.
Yeah.
Always entertaining.
Yes, so I called in, I was away in California, and I texted Sean McDonald to keep me, and he reminded me that I could watch it in California, and I did. I watched the DCTV, and bing, bang, boom, we got the results. It was great, and for me, it was, 5:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, very good.
After the text, you told me I got it on YouTube already.
You were being kind.
And last, just want to thank Senator Montigny, who, as part of the supplemental budget bill, included a number, or quickly reached out to us to see if there were any items that could be included. I quickly was in contact with the school administration team and our DPW, and we did, at least in the Senate budget, was included for the funding for the new bus, which is part of the capital plan, and then some musical and athletic equipment. So a total of $170,000, I believe it is. So still needs to go through committee, but we're very appreciative that the senator acted quickly on our behalf. We're actually going to have another CIPC meeting in the near future to basically come up with an alternative.
Yep.
And so if it ends up getting
To adjust
passed,
that.
we can
Nice.
still reallocate those funds to another school department project.
And the unsung hero in Mark's office, Audra Ryder.
Yes, yeah, Audra does a great job.
It was great to hear. All right, I know that we are talking about town projects at our next meeting. So tonight, anything on our old business?
No 40Bs, all 3 projects are still moving along. Hawthorne is actually being reviewed tonight at the high school by the ZBA. Bliss Corner, no new updates. Lake Nokichoke, no new updates. Municipal broadband, Ripple Fiber, I had mentioned to the board previously. We were going to have them in next meeting, but we need to have Dan in to go over the planning updates.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're eyeing for May 11th to have Ripple Fiber, and Peter Chase is just working with them to make sure that date's going to work. So tentatively May 11th to have them in to give you an idea, but they're still on track for that phase 1, and they're still hopeful to start getting customers signed up in September for part of their phase 1. Yeah. So they'll present to you and have an opportunity for you to ask questions.
I was joking a little bit about the 5-year lock-ins from Comcast and some of the competitors, and I got an email for 5-year lock-in.
Did
So-
you?
Yeah, so people may want to hold off on any commitments between now and the time that we bring that forward.
Big Brother is listening. All right, looking at next on our agenda is to review the minutes, May 30th, 2026. I reviewed them. I did not see any issues, and we included the 40B dates in that. If anyone else has.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of March 30th.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. With the
Second.
motion, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. Any discussion?
I think Nate
Mr.
has to,
Tattelbaum?
no, Nate has to recuse
Yes,
himself.
yes, we talked
No,
about
I'm good.
Okay, so all those in favor of approval?
Aye.
That's 4 of us, and 1 abstention. Thank you. All right, next, we have Select Board updates. Mr. O'Neill.
Pass.
Okay, Mr. McDonald.
I'm wondering if with the boating season is now hopefully in full bloom, or at least getting there, can we get an update on the new marina use as to the number of, docking fees and whatnot?
Yeah, I can get you an update on that. I will say, the consultant, I'm sorry, not the consultant, the construction was supposed to have been completed in December. I recently found out that was not the case, and they actually just completed the additional pilings. So we didn't open up those spots until that was done. So the data may be a little bit delayed, but we can certainly get you everything to date in what we then anticipate.
Yeah, it's just wondering, if it's being used.
Yeah,
That's
basically.
certainly, if, on your list, Cody, if you could put in to have the harbor master in with that data, and also looking at, there's going to be some events happening. We have a start of the 250th celebration with a sloop coming into Paid Narrum, so we'll get him on here. So we'll look at a date in maybe the early June meeting, if our May meetings are getting filled.
And also,
Yeah.
I know we had problems with the billings for the waterways, the mooring, the boat licensing and whatnot. I'd like to get an update on that to see how that has been rectified. Okay.
Yeah, we've
So
made
what
sure
did you
that it's
say?
happening.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, and I mean, just once it hits the street, just get us an update on, how it's going and what happened to fix the situation, and, because I know you said something about, at the time, you were working off of 4 lists or something like that, so it was just crazy stuff, so how it can be rectified in the future.
Sure, Gary, that would be great.
And why am I so
Gary has
red?
some information tonight, so.
I know I was out in the sun yesterday, so.
So typically, the boat bills go out around September, October. This is when most communities send them out. But because of last year, when those boat bills went out, there were a lot of instances where through the mass registry that they register these boats in, it was a lot of old information. So what the assessor's office did this year was took a little bit more time, cleaned it up. The boat bills will hit the street tomorrow. It's 60 days to collect a bill. So that will put us around middle of June. We'll then send out demands for any delinquents that are out there. So we'll capture all that revenue within this year. But on the bills now, that's all been cleaned up. There's additional information. The registration numbers are on there. So if there's any information that's incorrect, it's really now between the boater and the state still. But that's been scrubbed almost 100%. So we should have no issues this year with boat bills going out and inaccurate information as there was in the past.
Excellent. Good to know. So those are coming to your mailbox.
The boat
Soon.
owners are probably not going to like it, but
No.
at least,
All right. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yeah, a few things here. I'd like to, at a future meeting, I'd like to bring up the issue of the heavy-duty, heavyweight plastic shopping bags being now used in the major retailers in town. They're probably 10 times thicker and 100 times more unable to decompose. My guess is there's probably as much as 2 million of these being used in our town alone. And I think I'd like to have a discussion about what we think we want to do about it, and or if whatever. I have strong feelings about it myself, but these are heavy bags that are replaced our thin bags, and we kicked ourselves in the face because we ended up with a bag that is far worse than what we had before, and that was the way the industry got around it. So I'd like to put that on a meeting agenda at some point.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Just as are you aware that the state has a bill regarding the bags? Now, I don't know if it entails the thicker bags, but maybe
The thicker, yeah. Well, I
maybe
think
our office can contact
That's part of the
Representative Markey
discussion.
to find
Sure.
out what's part of that bill.
that's part of the whole discussion. I agree. Because those bags are now.
I was hoping they were eliminating all plastic bags.
Right,
but
that's
I'm
the only
not-
way to do it,
I'm
because
not sure.
those are now reusable bags, because they
Yes.
reach a certain criteria.
Yeah, because I think the state bill also is implementing a 10-cent fee on paper bags. So it's basically what Stop and Shop is doing right now. You want a paper bag, it's going to cost you 10 cents. So that the state bill does have that in it.
There's a whole, this is not a simple solution, but I think that what we're doing now is pathetic in our town, on whatever the rest of the country is doing, but it's bad.
Well, it's a mishmash. I mean, you can go to Fall River and,
No,
you
what
can
I
get
mean
plastic
is, that
bags.
you go to the bags in these two large discount stores, and people are bagging themselves and putting in 2 pieces of items in there, walking out with 15 bags, because now they can have them in their house as reusable, because that's what they do. It's-
I reuse them, so.
I'm sorry?
I reuse them.
I understand.
Yeah. But
so-
we should be ahead of that.
Agreed.
I know when we were talking about bags at another time, we were also talking about the fact that we, Dartmouth, were having our trash bags sold within a plastic bag. So we eliminated that plastic bag, we put the label, and we did have some issues because the label was ripping it, but Mr. McDonald was able to educate our residents on just tearing the label and using the plastic bag. So thank you for that PSA, Mr. McDonald. But yeah, again, we should always be looking at ourselves.
I would be, this is a really, to me, it's an important issue, because it's a complete waste of resources. And it's, if all you do is sit in one of these stores and watch what goes on, anyway, the second one would be regarding the illegal signs posted on our public and private property. There's been
It's bloomed.
explosion.
It's bloomed.
And I called the number for my friend Stan and I both made separate calls to the pressure washing fellow, and
That guy is just like a locust.
he's a franchise. And I spoke with him and told him that what he was doing was illegal. And I also sympathize with him, because he's trying to hustle for business, but you can't do it that way. We need to put some teeth into it. It's not fair to have our building inspector be the enforcer of signs. Maybe if we put a penalty on it, that's $20 a sign, something, a discussion that it's only going to get. In the city of New Bedford, this pressure washer guy must have put out 500 of these signs everywhere. And I don't think I think it's something we can deal with in a way that maybe will minimize it, but it's pathetic once again.
Well, it's not only is it a municipal problem, but it's also a private business problem.
Sure.
Because they're putting it on private businesses. The pressure washer guy is one of them. Another one is June's dumpster rental or whatever.
Yeah.
They have it on private businesses,
no question.
Being a property manager, if somebody put a sign on, the property that I manage, I would be calling them and saying, okay, now you owe me rent for renting space or get it out of here, and that seems to be part of the problem with some of these private businesses. And when I say the private businesses, I mean people who own the Lowe's shopping plaza, the Stop and Shop shopping plaza, because part of also the biggest problem is the condition of some of the landscaping, especially that road that goes from Stop and Shop to Lowe's.
Yes.
That is just absolutely atrocious. And if I was the owner and my property manager left it in that condition, I'd be finding a new property manager, and the same thing. And I understand the property owner of Home Depot in that is she can be very difficult at times and sometimes absolutely bonkers, but she needs to address her her landscaping over there too, because I'll be honest with you, put it blunt, it looks like crap. I mean,
I'm talking about having simple.
well, that too, but
solution,
part of those signs are also in their area.
No, there's
People throw
private
them right
property
in
signs,
their
there's public property signs.
Right.
And if I'm running a legitimate business and I'm competing against some guy who puts 1,000 signs around, it's not fair to that business either. Yeah. And I think we need a discussion about it and come up with a solution. It's not the end of the world, and it's not spending $400 million on long-range planning, but I think it's something that is legitimately addressed. So I'd like to get that on a.
Well, you're right. We've talked about it and laughed at it and used it as a prop for
I'm
Stanley's
thinking that if
retirement, which was actually very
you put a sign
funny.
up and it costs you
Right.
$25 for each sign, and we'll go get them.
Yeah.
I think Stanley Mickelson will get them for us, and we'll have them. We can put them on a
Retirement.
retainer. The other thing is, I mentioned at the last meeting, is getting the agenda on an agenda regarding the discussion on the old police station.
You have that on the list.
I understand. And lastly, going forward for this year, I'm looking forward to the process of how we spend our money with all these different committees and people doing some really good work. It's coming together to the point where we've got to just keep hammering away and let our constituents know what we're doing, so we deal in facts and information and detail and deadlines, so we end up with something that's good at the end of the day that we all can be proud of with a team effort. And it's coming fast. And I look forward to that, to this next session. I think it's going to be a great thing. Thank you.
I think so too. Thank you. Nate?
Just happy to be here.
Yeah, sure.
Meeting number one, I will say just something to consider for the board. And one of the things during my campaign is, if the board would consider doing a public comment period, similar to what the school committee does, to allow the general public to come in without being invited or having to request special permission. I think it would be nice to have, a 10-minute time slot at the beginning, and if there's no takers, we move on, and if there's a taker, at least we have the opportunity for our public to be engaged. I think it dovetails with
Have we ever done that? Not in my time, but.
I know it's somewhat of a Pandora's box, because you never know what you're gonna get, but I think it's a box worth opening. Just again, to, dovetails with goal number 5, right, transparency and engagement. I think if we provide a venue for people to be engaged, maybe they'll take us up on it. That's all I got.
Good.
Taken under consideration. Thank you. That's it? All right. And myself, other than welcoming Nate aboard, this is great energy you had in your campaign, and I hope that you haven't lost that energy and that enthusiasm, because we need it. It's going to be a great year. So I welcome you aboard.
Thank you.
It is We've ended everything on our agenda, correct? Our next meeting is April, hang on a second, 27th, which is after the school break. And that night, we will be looking over the review of the draft warrant. And really, from that meeting on, it's a fast slide to town meeting. So we have a lot coming up. That's it.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. McDonald.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Silva. All in favor?
Right.
Thank you very much.